Hello, everybody, and welcome to Heartlight Vedic Astrology. Today, I was going to discuss the new moon or Amavasya that's happening on 26th of May, 2025. This talk is from a Vedic astrology or Jyotish perspective, so ancient Indian astrology that's more than 5,000 years old. And it seems like the theme for this moment in time is leaving a legacy. So let's take a look. I'll note beforehand, the information presented here is for educational purposes only. Excuse me, and should not be considered medical, financial, professional, or life advice of any kind. If you are in need, please contact an appropriate professional for support. Then you might take a minute or two to read the rest of this disclaimer. If you're new to Vedic astrology, also known as Jyotish in Sanskrit, are my videos. All of my teaching videos on the subject are my concepts playlist. They can be found there. Wherever you see a double asterisk in my talks, that means there's a teaching video on that subject if you'd like to learn more. Also, my channel is all about playlists, so that different videos are easy to find. So like I have a planets, grahas playlist, houses, bhavas playlist, and a gochara or planetary transits playlist, which this one will be a part of. And there are others as well. If you like to learn astrology by looking at famous birth charts, I have a video titled Birth Chart Archive List 2025, where I've listed all the famous birth charts I've analyzed on the channel, whether that's famous people, places, or moments in time. Also, it might be helpful to some of you to know that auto-dubbing is now available on this channel in 8 languages: French, German, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Hindi, Japanese, and Indonesian. The newest teaching videos that I've posted, in case you've missed any, are mantras for the sun or Surya, Scorpio constellation or Vrishbha rashi, and then parivartana and kahala yogas, which are dispositor combinations for power, leadership, and wealth. And if you're new to all this and want to learn more, I have a list at the bottom of the slide of foundational videos I would watch first to start learning Vedic astrology and also to get more on talks like this, since they're mostly interpretation talks. Okay, so here's a chart for this moment in time. This chart is set for 26th of May, 2025, 23:02 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time or New York time. That's a time zone that I live in. Okay, so let's start off with some context here first. So the day lord is Moon, and the hora lord or hour lord is Mars. So Moon, indicates mind or emotions, intuition can be, sometimes the public. And then Mars can indicate things like innovation, starting something new. Sometimes can also be like kind of disturbing or erratic behavior sometimes, or sometimes kind of like aggressive behavior, that sort of thing. So this is the thing, is that you can see both of these planets are in negative houses. Okay, the moon is in the 6th house here. So let me back up a little bit. Excuse me. So this is a North Indian style chart, if you're not familiar. And so to get to the first house, rising sign, ascendant, lugna, all different names for the same thing. You go to this top diamond in the middle. Okay, there's a little 9 in the bottom corner. That little 9 refers to the 9th zodiac sign of Sagittarius, or Danu in Sanskrit. Okay, so we have a Sagittarius rising chart. And then to get to the other houses, you count counterclockwise or up into the left here. So then the second house will be this upside down triangle with a little 10 in the bottom, referring to the 10th zodiac sign of Capricorn and Makara in Sanskrit. Okay, so you can see Moon, if you follow along that path, Moon is here in the 6th house of acute issues. Okay, luckily it's it's kind of an exaggerated moon, we would say, because it's new, right? It's starting a new cycle here. But it's also, and it's combust because it's so close to the sun, you can't see it. What was I going to say? It's exalted here. So there's an exaggeration here of moon. Luckily, it's in a nakshatra called Rohini. So if you're not familiar, nakshatras are also called lunar mansions. There are about 27 of these, and every night the moon passes through a different one, and they all have different energies associated with them. So luckily, Moon is in one of the nicest nakshatras of Rohini. Rohini is considered to be the most attractive, seductive, luscious, fertile type of energies, or nakshatra energies. So that's pretty nice. So there's some planting of new mental seeds that are quite attractive. And again, because the sun is right here, basically the same position, the sun is also in Rohini. And the sun symbolizes things like career, purpose, soul, health. Okay. And so with sun and moon, both in Rohini, these are the two regions because the sun also symbolizes the king or president and the moon refers to the queen. So these are the two regions of the zodiac, of the Jyotish, right? Ancient Indian astrology. So that's pretty nice to have two planets in Rohini here, especially when they're so important. Okay, but still, they're in the sixth house of acute issues and problems. Okay, so there's something attractive here, but something also, kind of amiss. And then Mars, if you go two houses further to the eighth house, you can see Mars is here in the eighth house by itself. The thing that was Mars is creating some disturbance here, it looks like, because one, it's debilitated in Cancer. That four on the top corner there, that's the four zodiac sign of Cancer, or karaka in Sanskrit. Mars is debilitated in Cancer. Okay, so that's going to make Mars is already an erratic planet, and it's also a rebellious planet. And so putting it, having it here positioned in Cancer is going to make it more erratic and unpredictable. The other thing is that unlike Sun and Moon, which are in really nice, the nakshatra of Rohini, Mars is in the nakshatra of Ashlesha. Ashlesha is symbolized by a snake. Okay, and so snakes, they do snake-like things, right? So sometimes they hide out, sometimes they rear their heads, sometimes they bite, sometimes they hiss, they can do all sorts of things. And because Mars is unstable here in its debilitation house, constellation, excuse me, and it's in Ashlesha, we're going to get more of this the more kind of erratic and aggressive, uh, you know, um, energies of that snake-like energy of Ashlesha. Okay, sometimes you can get like a natural benefic planet, like maybe Jupiter or Venus in Ashlesha, in which case you would get more of the like positive or healing qualities of a snake. Like, like in medicine, they have the two snakes wrapped around the staff of Mercury. Okay, so sometimes, Ashlesha can indicate healing, but in this case, I would say it's more of like a odd, erratic, but attention gathering, attention seeking type of energy. Okay, and the eighth house is related to chronic long term issues. The other thing is the eighth house is related to deep psychology. Okay, so if this was a person's chart, okay, deep down inside, probably a bit unstable, let's say, or unpredictable at the very least. Okay. The other thing is Mars is lord of the fifth house of intellect. So basically, Mars, this unstable, unpredictable Mars, is indicating two different, and it, is indicating twice over that there's probably some sort of mental challenge or instability here to some degree. Okay. The other thing is Mars is lord of the the 12th house here of losses and expenditures. Okay. So if we're just looking at this as a transit chart, this could be somebody who's, disturbed by some sort of loss related to fifth house issues, which could potentially be children, which could potentially be creativity, which could potentially be romance or advising. Okay. So, and again, the 12th house here of losses and expenditures. So it looks like something has happened here that's, again, if as a transit chart is causing some mental disturbance. But again, if this was a person's chart and we're looking at this more statically, um, overall, this is somebody who would probably be quite unpredictable in what they're thinking. Maybe innovative, okay, because Mars can be like an innovative, kind of a rebellious, counter current type of energy. But I would say also quite unpredictable, and maybe it's sometimes, they can lash out. Okay. So when we're looking at the day lord of moon, of mind and emotions, and Mars, you can see that there's some sort of disturbance of the mind already. Okay. Then if we look at the dasha period is the planetary period. So in Vedic astrology, we go through different planetary periods, and these indicate planets that are currently, you can think of them as sort of more active or influential in the chart. Okay. So again, we have Moon and Mars, which we just discussed. Moon again is like a sub period, and then we have Sun now too. Okay, so now we're picking up the Sun energy that we talked about. Luckily, again, Sun is in Rohini, so there's some attractive, energy here. And Sun is Lord of the ninth house here. And the thing is, the ninth house represents father, guru, or teacher. It represents spiritual community. It represents government. It represents authority. It represents institution, organization. It also represents a spiritual community. Okay. So we have here, since Sun is also in the sixth house, there's some problem with some sort of attractive, you know, portion, or symbolism of this ninth house. So it could be father, because Sun also represents father, but Sun also represents like, administrator, like head administrator, like president or king. It can also represent like the head of an organization. Okay, and you can see that K2 is in the ninth house here. K2 is Sunday. It's at 29 degrees 32 minutes. So Sunday means that a planet's in the first or last degree of a sign. That means that it's inherently unstable, because when you cross signs like that, you're switching elements. So like K2 just came from Virgo, which is an earth sign, and now it's in Leo, which is a fire sign. So we're moving from practical, tangible earth energy to fiery, active type energy. But K2 has this kind of unusual, it's a self known of the moon. It has this kind of unusual quality to it, unexpected quality to it. And it can also represent kind of like separations. So it looks like there's some sort of separation that's happened that's causing acute problems. But this institution here, this ninth house stuff, there's something quite attractive about it. Okay. And so it looks like there's some, disturbance about that. The other thing is Mars and Sun are the two leadership planets. So we're picking up Moon, which again represents the intuitive emotional mind, and Mars and Sun, the two leadership planets, the two fire planets here. Okay, Mars is more the CEO, commander-in-chief of the army, that kind of roll up your sleeves and get down in the trenches and, get into the nitty-gritty details. While Sun is more of the, kind of can be a figurehead, not always though, but it's sort of like the more, usually sort of more, how do I say, I don't know, for some reason business terms are coming to mind, but like more sort of like the brand or the, image, you know, of an organization. Like I'm thinking of celebrities, who is it? Like Rihanna. She's a, singer, famous singer, but she has all these like I think makeup brands and things like that. So the thing is, she would be the president or the queen, one of those two, but president. But I'm pretty sure she's too busy to be handling all the nitty-gritty details. I'm sure she's got some CEO that works underneath her, but everybody sort of associates her with the makeup brand. Okay, so she's again the uh, she is still ultimately in charge, but again, she's probably a little bit more hands off. I'm guessing. You never know, though. I mean, maybe she's really into the details and hands on every day, but I'm sure she's got other things to do. I think she's pregnant again, so she's got another kid on the way. Anyway, yeah, so we have some leadership here. And again, we have some dichotomy here because Mars is again debilitated and in inflation energy, and Sun is with an exalted moon. It's also with Mercury. So Mercury is in a different nakshatra, but you can see the Sun is with the two mind planets. The moon is the intuitive, emotional mind, and Mercury is the logical, analytical mind. So there's some reset here of the mental faculties, logical and emotional here. Luckily, we have an exalted moon, so that's helpful, but it's still weak because it's new and you can't see it. Mercury is also combust, so you can't see it. So when a planet is combust, you can't see the outer manifestations. So it looks like whatever's going on here, whether it's a temporary transit or whether this is an ongoing, person's chart, um, you can't see a lot of this under, the mental churning that's going on here. Okay, and the other thing I didn't mention is that Moon, even though it's exalted, and it's in Rohini, which is nice, although it's new, Moon is also the lord of the 8th house, which Mars is sitting in. So that also means that long 8th house issues are coming to the 6th house. So long-term, deep, chronic problems are coming to the 6th house of acute problems. So whatever this loss or disturbance is with the 9th house, there's something attractive about it, but there's also some sorting through mentally, reset mentally about some sort of loss that's happened. That's, again, disturbing and probably attention seeking as well. Like the snake, right? Like especially the cobra, the hooded snakes and stuff. They sort of sit there and they sort of like weave a little bit, and you sort of like, oh, what are they going to do? And you can't keep your eyes off them. So what I've said before is that when people have important placements in Ashlesha, like maybe their sun is in Ashlesha, if sun was in Ashlesha instead of Rohini, like, this might be somebody who has an erratic father. Um, Mars does represent siblings and also represents enemies, so maybe some, problems there as well. But Sun in Ashlesha would give like maybe a father who was erratic or somebody who was quite mesmerizing in some ways. Or sometimes when you have Venus in Ashlesha, you'll get like an actress or a model, like because Venus represents beauty and kind of like romance and sexiness and stuff like that. So it's this very sort of mesmerizing beauty that they can have. The other thing about Ashlesha that I've seen is that when people have important placements in Ashlesha, sometimes when they run that planet, especially if it's a natural malefic planet like this one is, sometimes people can pass away from like sudden, like bizarre events. Like Kobe Bryant, I remember he was a basketball star, U.S. basketball star. And when his planets are transiting or something like that, he has a natal placement in Ashlesha, and he died in like a helicopter crash unexpectedly. And also like Whitney Houston, that singer, she died unexpectedly and in a weird, strange way. She drowned in a bathroom in a hotel. Um, yeah, so again, there's some strange, unusual, disturbing things going on here in the 8th house, and then also again the 12th house and the 5th house because Mars is tied to all that. And then there's some of that energy being projected out to the 11th house of income and club society, and the 2nd house of family, assets, and speech, and then the 3rd house of nonverbal communication, siblings. You see how this is going. Okay, so this Mars is actually, again, we're picking up twice. So there's leadership here, but like, again, there's this attractive reset, mental reset going on with Sun and Moon, but Mars is also like kind of throwing a monkey wrench into all that. Okay. And then the shop period is switching to Moon Rahu on the very next day. So this is a very temporary kind of thing here. But Rahu is the north node of the moon. You can see Rahu is up here in the 3rd house. Again, the 3rd house representing siblings, neighbors, friends, menial dexterity, nonverbal communication, also courage. And Rahu brings in, again, unusual energy, sort of like Ketu, but Rahu is more about ambition. So there's going to be some really strong drive towards 3rd house issues. Okay, and Rahu, you can see, is also Sundi, like Ketu, because Rahu just recently transited from Pisces into Aquarius here. The other thing is Aquarius is a fixed air sign, so this is about fixed ideology. So what we have with Rahu is that we have this Mars, kind of unstable Mars aspecting here, and we also have Jupiter, aspecting here as well. Jupiter is in the 7th house. Jupiter is in a nakshatra called Mrigashirsha, which is symbolized by a deer's head. And that's considered to be the seeking, searching, star nakshatra. So Mars and Jupiter when you get them together, you can get enthusiasm. You can also get legal issues because Jupiter represents law and Mars represents like fighting. Okay, and Rahu is ambition. Okay, and especially when you get Jupiter can be an expansive planet, Mars is an erratic planet, but Rahu can be like an obsessive, compulsive type of energy. So all of a sudden, there's going to be this switch to third house issues on the next day. And so this could be somebody who is like writing a lot. This could be somebody who's involved with like writing something over and over again, trying to get it kind of right or perfect or something like that. Something that's unusual, something that's, but this is like, again, like a ideology. So this is like kind of creating a new life philosophy here. Okay, through writing, and it could be something like maybe something like song lyrics, because the third house is also like classical arts. But there's something like I would say, and Jupiter's like can represent oral communication or voice. But with Rahu and Mars, this is more, I think, tangible. So it's like somebody who's like writing something down. Maybe it's some sort of legal, you know, I don't think it's document because this isn't something practical like Capricorn's on. It's Aquarius, so this is like a manifesto. Like maybe somebody's like journaling or something. Um, because again, there was this loss here. And so they're writing about it. And they're like, there's going to be a lot of action associated here, and obsessive action, compulsive action. Okay. But again, it seems like the specific moment of the new moon is all about like getting the mind sorted and then like jumping into action. Okay. The Lagna nakshatra is in Purusha. That nakshatra is all about sorting. The symbol of that is a winnowing basket, like for wheat or other grains, where you like, shake and shake and shake, and then the edible part separates from inedible parts and that sort of thing. So the Lagna nakshatra, and the Lagna again is the first house, rising sign, ascendant, all different names are the same thing. And the first house is really important because it sets the tone for the rest of the chart. And we do have, it's a Sagittarius rising, Danu Lagna here. Sagittarius is a dual fire sign. Okay, so there's like potentially two types of actions going on here, maybe even opposing actions going on here. But with it bringing in this Purvashada energy, there's like a sorting that's going on here, which again, we were already picking up that there's some sort of mental sorting going on here due to some loss, looks like, or some disturbance. Excuse me. So the other thing about this Sagittarius rising sign here, besides the sorting energy of actions, like which way do we go? What do we do here? Trying to figure out what to do. Jupiter is aspecting its own sign. That's going to bring strength, but it's going to bring more of this seeking, sorting energy. So we have this sorting energy through Purvashada, and we have the seeking energy through Jupiter. So again, there's a lot of deliberation going on here. And then Saturn is aspecting the Lagna from the 4th house. Saturn is a planet, indicating delays and obstacles and restructuring potentially. Saturn's in a nakshatra called Uttarachada. So, Uttara Bhadrapada. Uttara Bhadrapada is symbolized by the back legs of the funeral pyre. So that's usually like kind of the beginning steps out of something that's been lost, to demolish, turn to ashes. Okay, Saturn on its own can symbolize long, chronic problems and death. And then it's in this nakshatra, also indicating death. But now, again, taking the first steps out of that, chaos and smoke and flames and trying to create some sort of order, or at least a little bit of distance here. Okay, so again, we're picking up this like destructive energy from Saturn. but this like sorting, seeking energy of like what to do about it. Okay, so it's almost like, already twice over we're getting this, or 3 times over we're getting this. Then the moon nakshatra I mentioned is Rohini, and then the sun is also in Rohini. The thing about moon is not only is it exalted because it's an exaltation sign of Taurus, but the thing is Rohini as a nakshatra is ruled by the moon. So, so actually, we would consider moon to be swa in a swa position through nakshatra, not through constellation. That means that actually moon is even stronger. The other thing it means is that Mercury, Sun, and Moon, Mercury and Sun are deep down, because you can't see Moon because it's new, are deep down, deeply affected and influenced by the Moon. And again, luckily, Moon is exalted and swa by nakshatra and in a nice nakshatra, Rohini. Okay, so there's some sort of like, again, mental, more of a mental, emotional type of energy to this whole moment, this whole chart, rather than like Mercury, right? This isn't happening in Gemini or Virgo with Mercury and Sun and Moon. So this is more of like a feeling, emotional moment. Okay. The other thing is sort of in the context of, what's going on in the social calendar these days. Well, one, because this new moon is happening on a Monday, this is considered to be a Somavati Amavasya. Okay, so on Samavati, so when the new moon happens on a Monday, again, picking up even more of the moon energy, that's a day that typically people will honor Lord Shiva, the god of destruction, and also their ancestors. Okay, so ancestors, again, people who have passed on, and Lord Shiva is the god of death and destruction. So you can see on several layers, we're picking up like this kind of energy. The other thing is that it's Shani Jayanti this day. So the sort of the birth of Shani. Shani is Saturn. So we're picking up more of the Shani energy. Okay. Delays, obstacles, destruction on the funeral pyre, but starting to take our first steps into some sort of new order. Okay. It's also Vat Savitri Vrat, which is a day that married women will perform certain rituals to, protect the life of their husband. Okay. So that's also interesting because, again, ancestors, husbands, you know, protecting them, honoring them, that sort of thing. And you can see this Saturn and Venus here in the 4th house of family lineage, but also spiritual lineage. And this Saturn is influencing, again, the Lagna here. The other thing is that sort of along those same lines, maybe family, maybe just generally, in the United States at least, this day, Monday, May 26th, 2025, is Memorial Day. So that's a day that, I don't know, it's gotten a little bit more, it's kind of a mixed energy these days, but the reason for it, the reason why it's a national holiday, is to honor veterans and people who serve the country through their personal loss and sacrifice, through serving in the armed forces. Okay, so again, you can see again, like we're getting like death, destruction, and that sort of thing, and preserving ancestors and remembering, honoring ancestors and predecessors, if not ancestors, if they're not, biological. But that's why it seems what this moment is all about is, again, there's some attractive loss here in government, or some honorable or loss to an attractive institution here, some emotional disturbance, and then it's about making a decision about, again, how do we create purpose out of this? How do we create meaning out of this? Instead of like just letting it be like, oh wow, all this destruction has happened. There's some sort of legacy that's is sort of up for grabs potentially. And so that, I think, is what's happening here in this chart, is that, you know, whether they're honoring their ancestors or, spouse, or, veterans or whoever, is that, there are those moments of like being disturbed by the losses that have happened. But then it's like, how do we step up and honor them and, create a legacy or carry on the legacy of that in a positive way? And that's what I see happening here in this chart. Okay, again, whether it's personal and familial or whether it's societal, that's what I'm seeing going on here. So again, honoring the death and the losses and, even the disturbances on so many levels, but then creating a positive legacy out of it. Okay, so I'll go through, house by house now, and then we'll get into the amchas, or the subdivisional charts. So depending on how much detail you're interested in. So the lugna here, again, Sagittarius or Danu, and it's a dual fire sign, so mixed actions here. And I think the mixed actions, even like in terms of Memorial Day, it's kind of funny because most people, like, even though technically, historically, it's a day to honor veterans. And I do actually live, I think I mentioned, across the street from a cemetery. And so they actually put like American flags on all those graves of veterans. And so I know a lot of people will visit on Memorial Day, to honor their family members or friends who've served in the military and have lost their lives. Um, but the other thing is that on the flip side, a lot of people, most of the conversations I hear are about, hey, it's like the beginning of summer since we're in the northern hemisphere. It's sort of unofficially or officially like the beginning of summer, and people have the day off, and pools will open up, and people go on vacation, or take time off, and to go on picnics and stuff like that. So some of it is just like a relaxing, enjoyable time. And then the other part of it is like the memorial part. So some people do both, some people do one more than the other. So anyway, that might also be why there's like a mixed fire sign at the top here of this chart. Okay. Maybe one day you're going to, honor a veteran, and the next day you're going on a barbecue with your friends. Maybe that's what's going on. Okay, so again, this Jupiter's aspected by, the Sagittarius is aspected by Jupiter, which is going to bring strength since Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. It's going to bring strength to this the Lugna rising sign and the whole chart as well, which is nice because, again, you can see at least this temporary, very temporary kind of mental disturbance going on here. Jupiter's in Mrigashirsha, Saturn's in Uttaradrapada. So again, they're sorting through losses of close people and assets. Excuse me. Oh my, I think I'm going to get like hiccups now. Hold on a second. Okay, so I think my hiccups went away now. Sorry about that. Yeah, so this, again, the Lugna here, sorting through losses of close people and assets. Again, this is the Saturn, coming from the fourth house. Seeking spiritual balance and order, that's Jupiter and Mrigashirsha, after conflict in a chaotic period. There's courage here, but also like some sort of new life philosophy that's being developed. So again, it might be that, somebody in the family or somebody or whatever, has, suddenly moved on. And then it's like there's this kind of space. And so it's like, potentially grieving the loss or processing that loss. But then it's also like, oh, well, am I going to step up, and continue on? Like, what is my legacy? And again, it looks like the legacy might be stepping up into a position that was recently opened up. Like this could even be like a family business, like maybe mom or dad or grandpa or somebody has passed on who was ever leading it. And so it's just like, you know what, this is something I really want to preserve and I want to carry on and I want to be part of my legacy, not just their legacy. So it could be something like that. Okay, so the Lugnatia again is Jupiter, and Jupiter is also Bhavat Bhavam. It's Bhavat Bhavam because it's the lord of the fourth house and it's gone four houses away. So that means there's going to be like a repetition here. Okay. And this could be like a repetition of, especially like, it could be like ideas, advice, emotions, that sort of thing. But also like potentially property and also potentially like family members, because again the fourth house and the seventh house, fourth house is like property, home, happiness, mother, family lineage, property, and the seventh house is partnerships and also independent business. So you can see that those two things are going to be tied together now. So it's going to be like one, you know, potentially property. I don't think property is going to be the main thing. Again, 'cause the fourth house is Pisces, that's going to be emotional. And seventh house is Gemini, that's going to be more mental. So it's going to be like, in a way, like more of this mental, emotional churning that's going on here. One emotion after another leading to a new idea or seeking a new idea to help sort through these emotions, that kind of thing. So with Jupiter in the seventh house, that's kind of nice. That's the Lugnatia, that's the ruling planet for the whole chart. The seventh house is a Kamasthana, so it's a house of enjoyment. So that's kind of nice. It is Gemini here, so it's a dual air sign. So it's going to be like mixed ideas. So there could be, again, there's like a sorting through, I think, of not only actions, but a sorting through of ideas. Yeah. So it does look at this moment that, again, that it's this mental disturbance is creating some sort of confusion as to like which direction to take, but also like mentally, not just like physical action. So Jupiter, seeking indicates like balance and charity, intuition, optimism, moving forward. The seventh house also relates to the life path. So, and partners, independent business. Also, Jupiter is a spiritual advisor, and so that's going to be strong in the first house here of overall physicality of somebody, but also like personality. So there's going to be like sort of a fairly, if not spiritual, philosophical moment here in terms of like deciding like how somebody wants to live their life and what they want their life to be about. Yeah. Um, Property can be involved. The thing is that, especially when we start, incorporating the fourth house, like all the houses in the middle are kind of create the core of somebody. This Venus that's in Pisces in the fourth house, well, one, it's exalted. The other thing is it has Digbal or directional strength. So it's a very strong Venus. Venus, again, is a planet of socializing, social grace, finer things of life, but also creativity. And it's also the worldly advisor, and Jupiter is the spiritual advisor. So Venus is quite strong. It does have Saturn there as a bit of a blemish. The thing that was, when I put that together, though, it's like very, how do I say, like very creative person. This could be also very much an advisor, especially when there's things that have gone wrong. And so when you have Saturn and Venus like this together, it could also be somebody who's like a advisor about like art, like somebody who's into some sort of like outdated or traditional art. It could be some sort of creative endeavor. So maybe this could be like the institution is about, um, or the organization that's lost support here is like maybe like some sort of like ethnic arts or traditional ethnic arts. Um, and so, it's just like if somebody stepped into that, if the leader of that organization was lost, then it's not just stepping in to preserve the institution, but maybe it's also a step to preserve the art itself. So on two levels, it would be like, creating a legacy. Um, but yeah, it's also about extending the lineage because again, the Saturn there's been some, change in lineage, some loss. And again, the lineage can be familial, of the family, but it can also be a spiritual lineage here as well. Um, it does look like some properties involved there because the fourth house is relates to property, and Saturn is a planet that can symbolize property as well. So maybe there's some, even like property damage or property structural changes or that sort of thing. Change of property, to different people's hands, that kind of thing. Yeah. So different yogas here. So these are combinations of planetary combinations that can give meta effects, super effects here. There's the kahala sarpa yoga. So that brings ambition because all the planets are on one side of the Rahu K2 axis. There's the malavya yoga. That's a really strong exalted Venus. That's a pancha maha purusha yoga. So that brings even more like an extra effect of creativity and socializing and grace. And then you get more of that because Venus is in the nakshatra of Revati. Revati is, uh, can bring in like a traveling energy, which Venus also relates to travel. And Venus also relates to vehicles. And then there's also, what am I gonna say? Like a charitable, gracious hosting type energy related to Venus. So this could be somebody who, again, is like traveling to, honor somebody who's passed, like Memorial Day or maybe ancestors or whoever, somebody important in their life. Then there's a Subhaveshi yoga. That's a solar yoga because Jupiter is in the second house. The natural benefic is in the second house from Sun. And then that Jupiter is also supporting the moon. So we have a Subhaveshi solar yoga and Sunafa lunar yoga. So that's going to support those planets even more. We do also have a kahala yoga. So that was the last teaching video I posted was about Parvata and kahala yogas. So the kahala yoga for this chart is, so the Lagnesha of the chart is Jupiter. That's the ruling planet of Sagittarius. And Jupiter is in a sign of Gemini. So the landlord or dispositor of Jupiter is Gemini. Or not Jupiter, sorry, is Mercury. Mercury's not particularly strong. It's not in a strong, it's in a friend sign, but it's combust. It's not super strong. But the lord of Mercury is Venus, because Venus owns Taurus. And Venus is exalted, and it's got Digbal and some Pancha Maha Purusha yoga. So the landlord of the Lagnesha Jupiter is not strong. The landlord of Jupiter, which is Venus, is very strong, which gives a kahala yoga. So that actually gives strength to Jupiter as the ruling planet of the whole chart. Okay. So again, if that's new to you, you can check out that video I just recently posted. So these different yogas are going to bring ambition, creativity, power, eloquence, strengths. The chidra grahas for this chart are Saturn, Moon, Jupiter, and Mars. So again, Moon and Mars. You can see, as I was saying in the beginning, clearly there's some difficult emotions and thoughts and sorting things out mentally going on here. We're picking that up again. The chidra grahas are planets of vulnerability. So it's like which planets and the things they symbolize are going to be most kind of like sensitive spots or Achilles heels, that sort of thing. And then we're picking up Saturn. So again, losses here, destruction here, and Jupiter, like trying to find balance. So again, this is somebody who is, either if it's a person, somebody who's probably having a hard time sorting through things, might be indecisive. But as a transit chart, this is definitely like in this moment. Like there's a lot of sorting, processing that has to happen um, with losses, trying to find balance after a loss, that sort of thing. Unexpected loss, yeah. The other thing is that these planets, Saturn, Moon, Jupiter, and Mars, you can see that they pick up, a lot of the mind energy, like the fifth house and the eighth house, sixth house, also the third house of expression, and also the 11th house of clubs, group, society. So there could also be somebody who has a bit of trouble expressing their mind, especially because Mercury and Moon are hidden because they're combust. So there might be a lot of mental churning that's happening that's not expressed on the surface, by this person. And then there could also be social repercussions because of this. Okay, the yogi for the chart, which is a planet indicating wealth, is Mars, but you can see it's debilitated in a negative house. So that may not give a lot. The Ava yogi is Ketu. That's a planet indicating, lack of wealth. So it could be that this loss of a person or head of this organization also created like a financial deficit or something. And then the duplicate yogi is Mercury. So Mercury is not very strong either. So, at least, let me see. Venus is the lord of the 11th house. So at least Venus is very strong. But Saturn is the lord of the second house of assets. So looks like there's been some loss of assets, like tangible assets, but the income potential is still pretty strong here. Although there's some disturbance because Mars is aspecting the 11th house. Okay, so second house lord is Saturn. No trouble drop it again. And it's aspected by an exalted Mars. So Mars is exalted in Capricorn. There's an constellation. So that could be like a sudden, unexpected, shocking announcement regarding loss and building something, especially to family or inner circle, related to family, inner circle, spiritual lineage. There could also be a sudden shift in finance. So it looks like maybe out of the blue, because somebody here is thinking about all this, is that all of a sudden, like, they blurt out, what they're thinking or what they're planning on doing once they make a decision here, which, is probably going to be like a bit shocking to be like, wait, where'd you get that from? And the third house here, the Lord is Saturn. There's a Sunday Rahu and Purva, so that's a pretty destructive energy for Rahu. Um, and again, and there's an aspect by Mars and Jupiter here, so it's gonna be like sudden, ambitious, innovative, courageous ideology or law. Like I would even say like life philosophy here, involving siblings, neighbors, friends. So this is like the kind of the probably announcement to the close inner circle first, and then kind of maybe posting something about it online because Rahu is technology and can be also things like internet. So it might be like verbally telling close family inner circle. And after that, it's like, okay, we're gonna let everybody know now. Um, yeah, neighbors and friends, written. There could be some legal thing involved here. This could also be like an obituary, um, potentially. But there's also some sort of like obsessive compulsive aspect here because you have Rahu with Mars and Jupiter. There's a lot of this going on. So that I don't know, that might be like a push on the social media, or a little bit of like, wait, what? Like where'd that come from? So this could also indicate problems with like the shoulders, arms, hands, because the third house represents them. And this could also be like, again, I was thinking like since the third house is like creativity, this could be like somebody trying to like find something akin to like trying to find the right song lyrics, um, and kind of writing something over and over again, trying to get it right, trying to feel it out, trying to get it right, but like almost like in an obsessive way. Um, I don't know, I've been in that place when I'm doing something creative, like you kind of, you maybe put something out there and then you're like, yeah, it's not quite right. And then you like, erase half of it or rearrange it or whatever. And you kind of like keep going over and over and over again, until you feel like you got what you really want. Mm. So yeah, I think something like that's going on. Then the fourth house Lord is Jupiter, Saturn and Venus there, Venus and Revati. So there's some sort of dual creativity, maybe multiple vehicles, multiple properties here. Classical ethnic arts, like I mentioned. Also education is probably pretty strong. Home, happiness. So there's some chink in the armor here to all these really good things because Venus exalted in the fourth house is going to bring vehicles. It's going to bring money. It's going to bring happiness, especially since it's in Revati. Revati is also very gentle, auspicious type of energy, but this Saturn in Uttar is going to, again, delay these things, be a chink, kind of a chink in the armor, so to speak. So some sort of alteration to all this good stuff that Venus is bringing. Okay, so moving on to the other houses. So all the stuff on the left is the same. On the right are my notes for the other houses. So the fifth house here is, again, this debilitated Mars in the eighth house. So unexpected loss of teacher or guru, child maybe, in some sort of strange, unusual way, like, just wild, unpredictable. Like what happened recently in New York? Oh, there was some Mexican ship that like ran into one of the bridges. I mean, that was like really weird, So it could be, something like that where you're just like, whoa, that happened? Like for, it's hard to believe. That's that kind of a Shlash energy, just unpredictable, but sort of like attention, gathering, type of, story, strange and unusual way that it happened, this loss or delay. And then again, there's like long-term issues here because Mars has gone to the eighth house of long-term issues. And again, there's something sort of like attention grabbing or attention seeking about what's going on here. Then the sixth house lord is Venus. We've got a compass Mercury and Krittika. Krittika nakshatra is a dual nakshatra. So this is indicating more so even like a dual nature to this chart. So we kept getting like, we've got a dual fire sign and we've got Jupiter, the Lugnatia, in a dual air sign. Uh, and then Mercury, the Lord of, uh, the Lord of where Jupiter's sitting, that constellation, it's in Krittika, which is a dual nakshatra. So the symbolism of Krittika is Kartikeya, the commander-in-chief of the celestial army. So there's a fighting energy there with that nakshatra, but there's also a nurturing, fostering energy there because Kartikeya was raised by different foster mothers. So Mercury is an analytical, logical planet. It's like there's a decision being made here as to whether to fight or nurture or maybe both going on here. And that's part of the disturbance is, again, like, what do we do? What do we think? Like, what decision do we make? What ideas are we bringing forth and then what actions do we take? So it's like pretty deep, like how many like levels of pondering, are going on here. Um, and then the Mercury and Kritikas with the new moon and sun and Rohini, and this is also aspected by Saturn. So again, Saturn and Uttar is again putting delays and obstacles, and like Saturn can also bring fear, anxiety, doubts. So just even more disturbance here. Besides Moon being the lord of the eighth house of deep psychology disturbance. So you can see on several layers, several levels here, there's mental, emotional disturbance going on. But all this together, so structural change in mind, emotions, purpose, career, health. So this might all be on the table here of what's changing. Leading an organization, like again, if you were just sort of mostly following this person, or head of this organization, and now it's like, oh, now it's my time to step up. I mean, that could bring a lot of fear, trepidation to the mind and heart. Again, this could be in a religious organization, a religious group here, but, I would say erratic thoughts, sudden change in mindset, and again, maybe taking over a family business or something like that that's going on, and stepping into that new mindset, heart set, identity even, potentially. The seventh house Lord is Mercury, Jupiter's there, choosing wisely between two different ideas, paths, partners, potentially. Eighth house, again, the Lord is the new moon. We got a debilitated Mars there. So surprise, change of mind, ideas, contemplating losses. It's all the stuff we've been talking about. And this could also be erratic ideas, impulsive thinking. Like this kind of mind is going to be like, there's going to be like sudden flashes of insight. But maybe, hard to say if there would be a lot of follow through, I guess. Because it seems like if this was a person, there's so much sort of like contemplation here and, challenge mentally that it may be hard for this person to make up their mind. Again, if we're talking about a person, but in the moment, it's about like, a lot going through the mind and sorting through all that. Then the ninth house Lord is the Sun. And we got a Sunday Ketu there in Uttar Falguni. Uttar Falguni is about enjoyment but with a purpose. So again, that brings in more of that purpose idea. But Ketu also brings in like separate energy, separatist energy, unusual energy. And again, this could be the father, leader, boss, guru, organization. Since Sun, or owner of the ninth house, is gone, the sixth house, again, bringing acute troubles. But there's something attractive physically, mentally, emotionally here in the ninth house that's been disturbed. And so it's just like, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to fight for this? Are we going to nurture it? What are we going to do? Maybe both. Or at least advocate. Usually also Mercury, to integrate the lover fighter energy of Kartikeya and the foster mothers, it's like when I see people with Krittika, important placements in Krittika, they can be advocates because they're, fighting by nurturing or nurturing by fighting. It's kind of both, um, speaking up and standing one's ground or, that sort of thing. Especially with Mercury. The other thing is Mercury is a planet representing writing, and Krittika, one of the symbols of that is a sharp instrument. And so sometimes what I see with people when they have like Mercury in Krittika is they can be a writer, literally be a writer. And then you have Sun and Moon here in Rohini. So there's going to be some sort of attractive writing here. And then we're going to switch to shop periods to the third house of, nonverbal communication or, again, writing. So there could be part of what's going on here is like a decision to write something that's important, and again, that might be legal if maybe some, organization or property or assets need to be transferred or, that sort of thing. But again, this is also, I think, like writing a new life philosophy. It's deeper than that. So in the 10th house Lord is Mercury. Again, in the 6th house, it's aspected by Saturn and Venus. Venus is debilitated and Virgo here. So there can be, it looks like there's going to be 2 jobs or, also some planning and organization going on here. Because again, the path, not only is the path dual here, but it looks like there might actually be 2, maybe somebody is keeping what they're doing or downshifting that a little bit and then taking on some new thing so that they end up with 2 different jobs. That's a possibility. So it might be like trying to figure out what to prioritize or how to incorporate the second one into the first, structure first. So then the 11th house Lord is Venus. It's aspected by Mars and Jupiter. So there's going to be enthusiasm here, but this could be like seeking finances or an audience for a new exciting endeavor. Again, there's enthusiasm here with Jupiter and Mars. But it's also Jupiter is in the seeking energy and Mars is in that kind of like, attention grabbing energy. So yeah, it looks like there's some promotion, I guess you could call this promotions going on in the 11th house. 12th house here, 12th house Lord is Mars, aspected by Mercury, Sun, Moon. So again, trouble sorting through the mind, emotional losses, trying to gain clarity here overall. Okay, so that's the main chart. Now I'm going to go through the amshas or subdivisional charts so we can get more information and nuance. Okay, so now we have the subzodiacs, amshas, subdivisional charts. Those are all different names for the same thing. So when we look at these, what we're looking at is basically we're taking the natal chart. This is how these are derived. You take the natal chart and you slice and dice each house into smaller and smaller pieces, and then you create these subcharts. Okay. And these subcharts are mostly used to look at timing of things. Okay, so I have at the top here in green, the Dasha period. Again, we're in this particular moment of the new moon. We're looking at moon, Mars, moon, sun, and then we're shifting to moon, Rahu the next day. Okay, so those are the planets that I've circled on each of these charts, and that's going to, show kind of point our attention in those directions because that's what's going to be more active or influential in all these charts. The other thing to know about these subcharts, subzodiacs, is that they're typically not analyzed on their own. Whatever information you get from these subcharts, you want to incorporate into the main chart. Okay, but again, most of it's about timing. So we have on this slide the Dashamsha D10 for career, that chart, and the Ekadamsha D11 for income and public support. So at the top here, well, first of all, you can see Jupiter is Virgodama because Jupiter's in Gemini again. And then that's something to keep track of as you go through these different subcharts is how dual, not only did we see so much dualness in the main, natal chart, but you're going to see over and over again a lot of duality, all these dual signs, dual planets and dual signs over and over again in the subcharts. And that again is also pointing to like the deep, like Mars debilitator and Shlesha in the eighth house of like, you know, um, this duality of mind and emotions and actions going on here. Okay. So it's pretty deep and broad. Okay, so the D10 here, Mars and Rahu are not well placed of these Dasha planets. Mars is Swa, that's nice, it'll bring some strength. Sun is exalted, so actually the two leadership planets are really strong. And again, we're talking about the career here, right? So, and that was part of what was on the table is that it looks like there's some loss of leadership, but again, this might be the time to step up. Saturn is aspecting its own sign in the ninth house of again, organizations. So this might be, again, like restructuring an organization, okay? And it could include a spirituality, some sort of traditional element or ancient element, but also Indian potentially. When you see Saturn in its own sign, like Capricorn or Aquarius, sometimes that can point to like specifically Indian culture, right? Jupiter and Mercury and parivartana, so the two dual planets are in exchange with each other. That means they're going to both be strong, but it means that there's going to be Jupiter and Mercury all over the chart, and they represent education, communication, news, okay, speech, education. Yeah, so again, like I was picking up in the main chart, there's something about education, speech, Venus being Digbala and exalted in the fourth house, and then Jupiter being, Swa by aspect in the Lugna. That's going to be a lot of advisorship, but also like potentially somebody with that kind of chart could be like a teacher or advisor. So it looks like we're picking that up here with career specifically. And then we have, look at this, Jupiter and Saturn on the Gemini Sag axis again. So dual thoughts, actions, but again, those are also the Saturn is religion and Jupiter spirituality. So there is, again, picking up some element of spirituality to all this. So it's not just like a business transaction. There's something deeper, more soulful, spiritual going on here as well. That's why I think it's about like legacy, not just like a, passing on the baton, but it's like, it's almost like if your spiritual teacher, gave you their spiritual, whatever, like their text or their, um, pen or something like something very deep and sentimental, like truly deeply symbolic, like in a very deep level, rather than just like, oh, we're just like signing things off, and passing things along. Then we have the Ekadamsha D11 for income and public support. Again, we have another dual chart, first of all. But then you can see like Sun, Moon, Rahu, Ketu are on the Gemini Sag axis again. And Jupiter's aspecting Sagittarius. So a lot of duality here, income and support. So again, this might indicate with career and the D10 and the D11 both being dual, that it looks like there's probably two different organizations or activities or jobs, careers, endeavors going on simultaneously. So Mars is not well placed. It's in the 12th house, so there's some loss through actions, maybe siblings. Mercury and Rahu in parivartana, so there's an exchange there. So there's going to be a lot of unusual thoughts and decisions going on here. Maybe technology, maybe computer stuff, because when you get Mercury, because Mercury and Mars together can be like computers, and then Rahu can be like internet. So there might be some sort of digital, like internet type element to this. Jupiter aspects into its own sign, so you're going to have Sun and Moon in a very strong Sagittarius house in the 4th house. So that's typically going to give like a spiritual background or lineage. The 6th house has Mercury and Saturn in it, Rahu in it, Mars in it. So Mercury is there, the analytical planet is there with 3 natural malefic planets, Saturn being Swa, Rahu being Swa, and then Mars there, and then Mars and Saturn together can bring like engineering. So there's going to be like a lot of, this is indicating like a lot of tough mental schedule, because the 6th house can relate to schedule, but like daily routine schedule, but also decision making. Like especially, I would say with something more tangible, or not even tangible, but like a non-living being type stuff. So like operations or manufacturing or like logistics, that kind of stuff. Sorting through all that kind of stuff. But it would also be like, potentially unusual leadership of thoughts, ideas, education, technology. So this is going to be like a thought leader, potentially. But there's plenty of logistics work through as well. So on this slide, we have assets and education. We have the Chaturtamsha D4 at the top, and the Siddhamsha D24 for education. So again, 2 more dual charts. You see what I'm saying? Besides, like, look at the top chart, D4, you have Jupiter again. Actually, Jupiter and Saturn are both Virgotama. They're in exactly the same position as the natal chart. So you have Jupiter and Saturn, again on the whatever Gemini, Sagittarius axis here. I mean, that's a lot of dual. I mean, dual charts, multiple dual planets. It's like wow. There's a lot to sort through. So, in this chart, Sun, Moon, Rahu not well placed. Okay. But again, the 2 leadership planets, Sun is Swa, Mars is Swa, so the leadership is strong. And Sun and Moon are in the 3rd house, which can indicate changes and endings. So again, what we're picking from the main chart here. Also, was it Mars aspect of its own in 6B? Oh, so not only is Mars Swa in the 11th house, but it aspects its own house in the 6th. So again, strong leadership. 3rd house. Yeah, so the 3rd house, Mercury, Moon, Sun. So change of thoughts, career, purpose. Jupiter on the Sag. Yeah, and then Jupiter and Venus on the 1-7 axis. I mean, this is going to be like independent business and counseling again. Uh, Mars, Swan, the 11th house. This could be a boost of followers and income. Again, it looks like there's some promotion energy going on here. There may be difficulties with partners, though, because Venus is karako nasha. Venus can represent, uh, spouse, spouse-like partner, and it's in the 7th house of spouse-like house. So that can indicate some difficulties there. And Saturn is aspecting that. So that might be like maybe that'll ruffle some feathers, but it could also be like, if somebody's married and they're undergoing these changes of like maybe taking over a family business or other organization and that sort of thing, that, that's going to affect the partner, maybe mentally, maybe physically, maybe legally, because Jupiter's on all this, so Jupiter is a legal planet. Could be. Then the Sadamsha D24 of Virgo Maligna, so education's important. And look, we have Venus exalted in the fourth house again. So clearly something, involving creativity and, advising is going on here. Mars and Rahu are not well placed. And they get a very strong Digbala, exalted Venus. Jupiter and is in parivartana with Jupiter. So again, the two advising planets very strong. There's also a parivartana between Mars and Saturn. So the creativity is strong, but also the Mars and Saturn is going to bring like engineering, operations, logistics, like the nuts and bolts. So it looks like this person, if it was a person, has strength in both those areas, both like the science technical part as well as the more soft skill type stuff. Strong advisor, operations, logistics, and Sun is Swa again in the fifth house, so leadership mentality, but also really strong leadership, advising. So yeah, like maybe it could be like I mean, the ninth house was challenged, I would say. So I don't think, I don't think, like, if this is a person, I don't think they'd go to like a PhD level, doctorate level training. But it might be they have like a master's degree in, like a MBA or management or something like that. Could be. Oh, hold on. Okay, on this slide we have relationships. So the Navamsha D9 at the top and then the Drakana D3 below. So in the D9, all grahas are well placed. That's pretty nice. Moon is with an exalted Saturn, so it looks like the spouse is also quite strong in leadership. And that's in the seventh house, so independent business and leadership of the native, right? Because the seventh house for the D9 goes back to the native. So again, it looks like the native is stepping into some sort of leadership position, even through the D9. Mars aspect by its father was it? Wait, hold on. Oh, Mars, it's in Aquarius and Saturn is aspecting its house, so Mars is going to be strong through its dispositor. Venus, Jupiter's aspecting fifth house, so again, the two advisor planets are related to the fifth house. So again, more advising. So it looks like the spouse is also an advisor. And then you have, what is it? Rahu and Jupiter in the ninth house. So again, picking up that institution and spirituality element as well. So, yeah. So it looks like the spouse is kind of a similar type, Mhm. sort of in a similar type position as the native. And so again, it might be because they're already like married or legally bound to each other or something like that, or in partnership. So it's like, even though one might get the opportunity, it actually affects both people. So then the Drake and a D3 siblings, Rahu and Mars and Rahu are not well placed. Both are in 3 and 8b, so that means again changes and endings. Venus has Digbala again, so again strong Venus. Rahu and Mars are in 3b again, so ambitious siblings. So it's kind of reflecting the native chart, but also going back to, especially once the dasha period switches to Rahu, Moon Rahu, you're going to tip off this third house again. Again, really, and maybe the siblings getting involved. That's a possibility. Although it didn't look like it. It might be actually like, because Rahu's in Purva Bhadrapada, that's going to be endings, and Mars in Shlesha, Jupiter. It might actually be, a sibling rivalry type thing, where it's like maybe they're both trying to get the position again. If it's a family position, a family business, or something like that, it could be that. Then what do we have? We have Sun, Moon, Mars on the 2-8 axis here. So again, leadership planets and family house, long-term issues and operations here. So there's a lot to be worked out, I would say. This is a much more nuts and bolts type of chart than the other ones. Like Venus and Jupiter, the advisor planets, and the natural benefics are not so strong here. Um, is anything? Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really super strong here. I mean, Mercury, I guess, because it's in Taurus and it's aspected by Venus, which owns Taurus. But yeah, I mean, the siblings chart is not super strong. Um, so yeah, which is similar to the natal chart because we had Rahu and Mars, two natural malefics on the third house of siblings. So yeah, not too surprising. Then in this chart we have Saptamsha D7 for children, and Dwadashamsha D12 for parents and grandparents. So this may not be literal. This might be like children, future generations, and D12 might be previous generations or ancestors. So in the D7, Mars is not well placed. It's also karako bhava nasha. That's going to give problems with siblings. It is aspected by its dispositor of Mercury, though, so that's going to bring some strength. Jupiter and Mercury in parivartana exchange of houses. So again, educational energy, also institutional energy here in the children's chart, or again, future generations. Saturn and Venus are both exalted, so those are quite strong. Saturn's debilitated in the lugna here, so there might be some physical or mental, emotional stress going on. Sun and Moon are with an exalted Mars in 10th house. So again, that's going to bring the two leadership planets together in the 10th house of daily activity. So again, there's some, new, um, a lot of activity going on, practical activity going on. The thing though is that even though Venus is strong and Jupiter is sort of strong because Mercury, its dispositor, is aspecting it, both the natural benefics are in negative houses. So again, that may again be a reflection or echo from the fifth house of the natal chart, which was ruled by Mars, and it's in exaltation in the eighth house. So again, maybe not as much grace is being seen here potentially, and also we're not running the two natural benefics, but they are in negative houses. So then the Dwadashamsha D12, Rahu's not well placed. Sun and Mercury, we have two parivartanas again, Sun and Mercury, Venus and Saturn. So again, leadership, decisions, creativity, structure, advisorship, leadership, education, endurance. Those are the things that are represented there. Mars is still in the ninth house, again, organizational leadership. So again, it seems like, um, again, there's some loss here because we're moving from Mars to Rahu, right, as a sub-period. And then Moon and Sun are in the second house of family inner circle. And there's a parivartana with Mercury and Sun. So there's like decision making or sort of sorting things out in terms of family, inner circle, assets, that sort of thing going on. And then once you run the Moon Rahu period, you're going to have some acute troubles that need to be worked out. Jupiter's exalted in the 12th house with K2. This might indicate like teaching overseas, because again, we keep getting like education is important here, or just teaching overseas, but like global outreach. There you go. Teaching overseas or global outreach. Yeah, because exalted Jupiter, that can be like, again, a voice. So global outreach for whatever this is. I mean, it seems like a pretty big, deal, whatever's going on here. Okay, so then on this slide we have the health amsha. So the Tajik Shashamsha D6 for acute issues, Tajik Ashtamamsha D8 for chronic issues, and the Bamsha D27 for strength and resilience. So since we had 5 out of 9 classic Jyotish planets and negative houses in the main chart, and they were 3 in the 6th house and 1 in the 8th house of acute and chronic issues, respectively. That's a Balarishta yoga. That can bring difficulty to childhood. It can also be like a very precarious moment since we're looking at a moment in time. But I would also assume, especially with Mercury, Sun, Moon, and Mars being in the 6th and 8th house, like mental and emotional struggle. So we'll see here, if it pops out again, but I think it's pretty clear it does. So the D6 here, all grahas are well placed. The thing that was a 2nd house, we have Mars, Rahu, Ketu. This could be a very obsessive energy going on here, ongoing, because again, we're running a Mars subperiod, but then we're switching to Rahu. So this is like an ongoing sorting out of family matters, maybe assets as well, maybe some harsh speech. Then Jupiter aspecting its own house and 5B. We're bringing some spirituality and education energy here to the 5th house matters, which again is advising, but also children. So our future generations. So again, it looks like, again, there's some sorting out that needs to happen in terms of the future directions of an organization. So that's pretty similar. Then the Tajik Ashtamamsha D8 for chronic issues. See, Moon and Sun are not well placed, and they're aspected by Saturn. So this is going to be like, again, structural problems, changes with leadership, and also like affecting the mind, because Saturn's on the Moon. So, yeah. So again, it's a very difficult moment, but again, it looks like even though a decision may be made with some sort of new direction, it doesn't look like, the person's like out of the woods, because it's like, they're going to have a whole new set of things to deal with and think about and sort through in terms of when they step up into this new situation. Then the Bamcha D27 for strength and resilience. Well, you can see here, like, again, there's quite a drag. Moon, Sun, Rahu not well placed. Luckily, their dispositors are strong. They're also all in 3 and 8 houses, so again, changes and endings. And then you can see again, like Jupiter, Venus, Rahu, Ketu, Saturn on the Gemini Sag axis. So you keep seeing this over and over again. So delays in thoughts, sorting through ideas. We also have a Balarishta yoga again. So, and since most of these planets are negative houses, like, there is strength in the main chart with Jupiter aspecting its own sign of Sagittarius, and then we have the Kahala yoga. So Venus, the disposer of Jupiter, is exalted in Digmala. And here we're also getting some strength, but again, it's not without some wear and tear. Let's put it that way. And you can see like there's agitation in the mind of, but with creativity and imagination, because Mars is aspecting the 8th house. So Mars and Sun, the two leadership planets, are there with an exalted moon, but Mars and Sun are also the 2 fire planets. So this could be like agitation, irritation, disturbance of the mind again. So we're seeing that again here in the D27. Nope, sorry, I need to find my arrow here. Okay, and then here, last slide, we have spirituality and worship. At the top, we have the Panchamsha D5 for innate spirituality. And you can see Moon, Sun, Rahu not well placed in the 11th or in the 12th house of losses, expenditures. Luckily, there's an exalted disposer. Venus is exalted. But all these planets are going to be on the 6-12 axis, so acute problems, also enemies, and losses, expenditures. Mars is Swatho, so that's nice because we're running that as a subperiod. So again, it looks like there was some strong leadership going on here. And again, here you have like the duality of the Saturn, Mars. So again, operations, logistics with Jupiter and Venus, the 2 advisors. It looks like there's it could be like advising abroad. like maybe mentally, emotionally, or like going on retreat abroad or far away. But there's also like losses, confusion, obsession. It may be about going off grid to like sort all this out. Um, there's also a Balarishta yoga here again, so again, a precarious moment. But it might also be like losses of these things. Like maybe it's actually a loss of innate spirituality. Like maybe it's been quite strong because one could follow this because they didn't have the responsibility of whatever this new position, or endeavor is. But it might be, stepping away from the more personal expression of spirituality. And then in contrast, if you look at the Vimshamsha D20 for formal worship, Mars is in the 12th house, but then you have Sun with a Swam moon and Rahu in the 11th house. So the D20 is all about like public social group and leadership, and also almost like an obsessive quality about being social and open and that sort of thing. So it's like going from a very personal, private, retreat type of spirituality to, maybe leading groups. That's a big change. For some reason, I keep thinking of like Joel Osteen. He's kind of a big, well-known Christian. I don't know if he's a pastor or he's written books and he's got like a big TV show and all this kind of stuff. And I kind of think of him, and I'm not even sure why. I don't know too much about his story, but his father was a pastor, so he basically stepped into his father's shoes. And, I would think it would be one thing to be like basically letting dad, make decisions and lead everything. And then once, father has passed on, to step up into that is like a big deal. I mean, a lot has to shift mentally, emotionally to even take on that sort of mantle. But for some reason he's coming to mind. I don't know why. But yeah, you could see like almost being obsessed with leading public groups. So it's a very big shift here. Uh, Difference contrast between D5 and D20. Jupiter's in the Lugna, Venus is in 5B. So again, a lot of advising energy here. And again, just a big contrast with D5. So again, as I mentioned, if you've been keeping track, the dual charts, like the native chart, career, education, income, assets. So again, it looks like the career, this is mostly happening in the career of either taking a new direction or like adding in new responsibilities. And then 9 out of the 14 charts that I looked at, there were 3 or more planets in dual signs. I mean, that's a lot of duality. Okay. So we have 5 dual charts out of 14. 9 out of 14, 3 plus planets were in dual signs. And then 10 out of 14 signs, Jupiter was in or on Gemini and Sagittarius. So again, dual thoughts, dual actions, or at least momentarily indecision and confusion, but trying to sort through all that. Okay, so there you go. All right, so as always, thanks so much for stopping by, listening to one of my talks. I appreciate all your support on the channel. Everybody who's like liking and commenting and subscribing and sharing videos, sending in donations. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's really, really heartwarming for me. So thank you for all of that. Again, all my teaching videos on the subject are in my concepts playlist. They can be found there. If you want famous birth charts, the whole long list of them is in my birth charts archive list 2025 video. You can find them there. I do offer individual birth chart readings. If that's interesting to you, you can email heartlightastro@yahoo.com. And I do have another YouTube channel on natural medicine where I talk about Ayurveda, traditional Indian medicine, yoga, so other Vedic arts, homeopathy, and naturopathic medicine. So different paradigms of medicine. And the name of that channel is Nature Source Care. So that's out there too for you. All right. So as always, I hope you found this talk helpful, useful, and interesting to you as you learn to navigate the energy cycles of your own life. All right. So until the next one, take good care. Namaste.